Okay. I have lived in Tuscarawas County for about 16 years now, married to my wonderful husband, Phil, for 33 years. We have 2 adult young men, 23, 25, and I've served the community, Tuscarawas County, for probably about 15 of those years. So I'm kind of an unusual candidate in that my background is social work and I'm a prevention professional. So that means the work that I've done in the county is really to prevent youth substance use, to promote mental health with our young people, positive, healthy mental health. Some of our work is to prevent suicide in the county. So it's a lot of that mental health space in the community. We serve Tuscarawas County schools. We're in all the school districts. So whether that's elementary, education, skill building, high school. My passion, though, probably about 2012, was the Tuscarawas County Anti-Drug Coalition. So you might be familiar with that name. We moved it over to Empower Tusk, and that's an organization. Commissioner Metzger, Jerry Metzger, and I had worked together for a good 12 years. And the work of the coalition really has been preventing substance use, which is really working with adults, like helping build skills with adults, working with law enforcement, with our schools, our city government, just to decrease access. So that's where my background is. But I'll tell you why I got involved in this legislative process or jumped into the race. Probably about 8 years ago, we worked really hard across the county. But it wasn't until we got involved legislatively that we were able to move the needle. So just realizing, policy, legislation really is that key to making sure that we can protect communities. So my heartbeat for a long time now is just healthy communities. I'm a Christian woman. My faith kind of guides the work that we do. Even with the coalition, we've worked a lot with the churches over time. When a community issue comes up or a legislative issue, is to say, hey, churches, come here. Like we would do these pastor briefings. If you've ever seen those Hope Sunday videos, they're just opportunities to take problems in our community to our faith community and say, hey, like we need to respond, we need to act, here are our resources, this is how we reach out to the community. So that's really my background. But what has happened over the last couple of years, watching our current representative, is he was not voting in line with our conservative values in our community. And there were some issues that I had just even on responsiveness. So when there's issues, you would expect to call a representative or your senator, and you would expect someone to call back or have an opportunity to meet and have some discussion about issues. So, I had experienced that for a couple of years, but I was at the State House last January. And what happened at the State House is when they were swearing in the Senate and the House on January 3rd, there's agreed on Speaker of the House. So that's from your caucus. So as a Republican, they had agreed that Derek Merrin would be the Speaker of the House. So it should be an informality. You already had agreed, you come in on January 3rd, and it was our representative that nominated Jason Stevens to become the Speaker of the House. Well, Jason Stevens had cut a deal with 32 Democrats, and 22 Republicans joined that kind of coalition, which meant the Speaker of the House became Jason Stevens, who was really ushered in by the Democrats. And these, what you'll hear, Blue 22. So when you get mailers out there that talk about the Blue 22, that's what it is. It's 22 Republicans that sided with the Democrats to control the House. So where that was problematic is legislation was not passing this year. There was a big conflict between the Senate and the House, and the House was really going in a very liberal direction. So that was not okay. Like there was nothing about that being okay. And on my Facebook page or website, you'll hear people talking about, well, we want people to reach across the aisle. This was not about reaching across the aisle. This was day one. We placed you in office to be a Republican, and you have thrown in a Democrat, basically.
Rhino.
Yeah, definitely a rhino. So that's where we're at. So that was what was going on this past year. I also wasn't super thrilled with our representative being is much enmeshed in the householder conflict. So if you're watching House Bill 6, definitely the biggest scandal in politics here in Ohio. And I think we do need to hold our officials, our legislative body, we need to make sure they're people of integrity, that we can trust them to do what they're going to do. So, you know, we had the House Bill 6, then we had the nominating, you know, a rhino and being a rhino, and then as the summer moved on, then we had House Bill 68. So that put two different issues on the table. One was the SAFE Act, that Save Adolescents from Experimentation. There were 2 Republicans that opposed the SAFE Act, and ours was one of them. What the SAFE Act is about, it would allow schools to provide transgender care to our young people without parental consent. So not okay. And again, my space is working with young people, reducing addiction and promoting positive mental health. And I do not care what anyone says. You'll hear a lot of liberal people say, you know, how can you oppose House Bill 68? There is no way you can convince me transgendering our children when their brains are not fully developed, when they're still trying to figure out life, that is okay for young people. So that was a problem. And then his other one that he was one of 2 to oppose was the Save Women's Sports Act, which would be allowing men to compete in women's sports. So again, that does not align with our values here in Tuscarawas County. I'm getting to learn Southern Star. But those were some of the issues that kind of caused me to jump into this. And I'll let you know, I had never had political aspirations, was not on my radar. You can ask my husband. I love to work and I love my job. And I am a workaholic. I was raised on a dairy farm. So jumping into this race means if I get into the position, it means I will be leaving my job so I can be full-time as a state rep, because I know my personality will not allow me to do both of these. But before I went to run for office, I was kind of asking, like, is anyone going to run against our representative? And no one was going to, and I heard, well, Ellen has 1 more term, which was 2.5 more years. So for me, it was not okay that this was who was representing us as we're going forward. And I think we've all seen a lot of things happen, 2.5 years, 4 years, 5 years. I think we've seen our society slip in a way that's just not okay. And I do feel we need to stand up. I think people need to stand up to protect our kids, to protect our communities. So I know when I'm speaking, I'm a lot on that social service side, on that mental health side, but that's because that's where I've been for my last 15 years of my career. But I will let you know, I am a conservative Republican, so I have a lot of things I need to learn, but I have set myself up, actually, I'll tell you, God has positioned me in the last probably 12 years that the Community Coalition has worked 12 sectors across Tuscarawas County. So what the work we did, it required us to work with civic organizations, healthcare organizations, school superintendents, the business community. So I have been making relationships over this period of time. The Farm Bureau, they're in our meetings, we work with them often. So for me, stepping into the position of state rep, what I can promise you is I'm used to standing firm. I am able to advocate. I will tell you, if you know a social worker, we know how to get things done. But I also know who in the community to trust, who has knowledge. Like with the Farm Bureau, I absolutely know I would be speaking with Jerry Lammers and Ron Bond and Jim Rao. I know those people, I could trust them. I know where their heart is in our community. We have school superintendents that absolutely love our kids, love our community, and they don't want a woke agenda. They don't want, you know, transgender care, SEL services in our school. So those are going to be those things that I will be a watchdog in Columbus. I will let you know, Senator Landis, we've done life together for about 8 years, and in one of our meetings he had said, I think he testified as much as anyone I know from Tuscarawas County. So I do understand that legislative process. But I will tell you, from someone that's been boots on the ground in my position, a lot of legislators aren't listening to people like my voice. You know, they're looking for someone that's running a business, that might have a different experience. But what I have is I know when legislation is crafted where it can go sideways into a community. So often, as I was testifying, I knew people were not listening to a voice of such as mine in that social service field, but I welcome the opportunity to be on the inside of the legislature to ask questions when someone's testifying. When a lobbyist is coming up trying to sell a bill of goods, to say, hey, show me the research on this. I'm not going to sit there and just be quiet. I'm definitely going to be challenging what's being said to make sure that our legislation is passed well. I have the opportunity that I have Senator Landis as a good friend, Carrie Metzger, who was a state representative and our county commissioner for about 18 years. I have some good sounding boards of people that I could trust in the county to help me through this. So right now, I will let you know I'm drinking from a fire hydrant. When you run for office, I had no idea what this process was going to be like. I just knew I was not okay not stepping in to make a change.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. So I'm learning every day. The process, my husband will tell you, you get 1 million surveys. You know, everyone wants to hear your opinion, so then they'll say, you know, we'll endorse you, we'll support you financially. I am not taking anything lightly. Every single issue, and some of them, I think before I ran for office, you just kind of have your own framework, you know, of how you view issues. But stepping in this as a representative, I'm very mindful of what does it mean to represent 110,000 people and what these issues look like. So I am definitely like digging in and trying to figure out, you know, what's important. I knock on doors every day. I've been doing this since before Christmas. And when I'm at doors, I'm asking, what's important to you? So I'm hearing, you know, voices from our veterans. I'm hearing insurance gap issues. There's a lot. I write them down, and, you know, some of, even talking to someone the other day, just injection wells, there's a couple in one community, and what does that do to the integrity of their ground? And I don't have an answer yet, but those are the things that when I'm asking questions, it's because I need to do homework and learn on these issues. What I would also bring as a state representative, the way I've always worked is we identify a problem or an issue and we get the right people to kind of figure out what those solutions are. So if I'm in office, that's not going to change with me. Like, if I know legislation is happening, I would love to have opportunities like this in communities for me to share this is the legislation on the table, and for you all to give me feedback of what we need to do. I also know, I'm just going to tell you, I've already learned we're not all going to agree on everything, but I will tell you my personality is very committed to doing the right thing. So if I ever have a situation and you're not agreeing with the direction I'm going, and I do it now, I tell people, call me. I would much rather have a conversation and we'll work through whatever that issue is. I will never make a decision. My husband's looking, I'm looking at him right now without really kind of vetting through it and having a reason for that decision. And I love when people ask questions. I love when we can kind of get to really understanding things well. So those are, you know, what I would bring to the table. As far as Republican values, I will be 100% to ensure that our constitutional rights are upheld. So that is life, that is liberty, that is religion, that is our gun laws. We are definitely in a place in our society that, and I think we saw it in November, I think we saw it in August as well. I am confident that we are going to continue to see an agenda come into our state. We already saw it. And, jump on our Constitution and make changes that might not align with who we are. So for that reason, those issues I will stand very firm on. Our Constitution is to protect our freedoms, and those will be how I will use my lens on weighing in on issues. So that's a little bit about me. Let me hear from y'all. Questions, what's important to you, clarifications. And I'll tell you, I am not at the top of my game. I kind of got ahead. Have I missed stuff that I would normally say? Okay. So what do you want to know about me? How about we'll start there, and then what do I need to know about y'all? And oh, you know what? I did miss. There's two things that are really important to me. One is not to have government overreach. And the second is the importance of local control. So, and I'll give you an example from the work I do. In order to do my work, it all involves pulling down grant funding, whether it's federal or state. So I'm going to put it in my world. If I write for a grant to reduce substance use or to deal with the addiction crisis, sometimes the grant will come down and it'll say, here's money for the opioid crisis. We have not had an opioid crisis in our county in a long time. It's methamphetamines and it's fentanyl. So we will get money and we'll have to return it because we do not have that drug that affects our community. And it makes me angry. Go ahead.
Sorry, is fentanyl not an opioid?
Well,
is that not part of the crisis that we're in?
Yeah.
Frankly.
So a lot of
How
times,
do they language that?
right?
To screw us on that.
Yeah. So it's a synthetic versus an opioid. So
Same thing.
Yeah,
Right.
it is.
So are
But
you
still we have funding
legislating
issues.
to them to say, look,
So
we have a
I will
problem.
tell you, we've had a win on that recently. Now we're the addiction task force, so that has definitely opened up. But that was a fight that we were dealing with for a long time, and that's where if you allow communities to have the funding and support, we know how to identify not only our problem, we also know what the best fixes are for. So that's where that local control.
As a local
Yep.
establishment
Yes.
per
Yep.
se.
As
Okay.
long as we can get it to local,
Then we know what to do with that.
yeah.
Very well. Okay.
So to get that local funding down and allow
Because
communities,
when people say opioids and then they go fentanyl, to me, it's the same thing.
right?
And I didn't know if our legislature was.
We truly have gotten past that recently, but that
Okay.
was one of those issues that, my goodness, we fought for years,
Yeah,
for
okay.
years.
Okay.
So.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I appreciate that, absolutely. But that's kind of where that local control, and I see it everywhere, I do not want someone regulating our businesses or our workforce because it's our community. So we can regulate, internally what we're okay with and what not, but we need our businesses to thrive. So those are things that are very important to me. So with that, what kind of questions we got?
Mental health.
Yes.
My husband and I talk all the time. Every time there's a shooting somewhere, every time there's somebody got a gun somewhere, and all you hear is, we need more laws, we need more laws. No, you don't.
No.
You need to address the core problem. Nobody seems to do that. You've got the drugs, you've got the mental health. He currently is working for Cuyahoga County Auditor's Office. My husband, Jay. He says he could go to Canton, probably Dover, probably Philly, any corner at any given time and get an illegal gun.
Yeah.
So the gun laws are not the problem. He seems, I do too. They need to address the mental health and they need to address the drugs. Yes?
Absolutely. So it's interesting if you kind of follow me on Facebook. I think because I come from that behavioral health, I get people saying things like, so you want our children slaughtered? No. Like, this is not about gun laws, this is about mental health, it's about increase to mental health. So some of my priorities, like right away, is when we get into the mental health, why we have such an issue is because we do have a mental health shortage. We also do not pay our counselors and treatment professionals a living wage, which is problematic because in my agency what happens is I'm competing with a fast food restaurant. And I will tell you, it's not easy work. I mean, when you really think the complexity of mental health issues, it needs to be something that we prioritize. It's rough right now because the access to care is also based off of, actual workforce shortage. Like, we can reduce stigma around mental health, but if we don't have enough professionals to meet the need, we have a problem. So, we do not see responsible gun owners shooting up anyone. That is not the issue. So this is not about guns. This is definitely about mental health access.
But they make it about guns,
And yeah, I mean,
That's
guns.
something that has to change. It's not the guns.
It is not.
They're not gonna shoot themselves.
Right.
It's some
And they're not going into the
hateful,
store to
crazy
buy them.
person that, and they're gonna, I'm just sort of tired of them beating a dead horse, and that's
Right.
what it is. There are so many other things that are part and parcel of that.
Yeah.
It's just too
Right.
bad that we've gotten, I think back to, and I don't wanna stigmatize like you just said. But we once upon a time had multiple mental health facilities in this area.
Yeah.
And they closed them all. And those people, granted, that was many years ago, but we threw them to the wolves.
Yeah.
And so now it seems like we have thrown everybody else that's got a drug problem, that's got a mental health, we've just thrown them out to the wolves too.
Yeah.
Because God forbid you say, you need to go someplace and you need to be treated because
Well,
you
yeah.
don't make
Well,
it-
I got-
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
got a brother that's mentally ill, but he lives in a group home
Yes,
with two other
wonderful.
guys.
Wonderful.
They're in Strasburg,
Yeah.
and that's gets well taken care of.
Yeah.
And there's not near enough of those, I don't.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
there is either.
Yeah. So some of the priority areas on that mental health, substance use, recovery supports that I'll just let you know will be a priority to me. And I'll just start. Suicide prevention. And I know Joanne's heard me speak about this. We lost 28 people to suicide in 18 months in our county. The state says it's a priority. There is no funding that comes down to the local level. So that was work that our organization got recently. And, I work at the state level on this Ohio Suicide Prevention Coalitions. It's work that I know how to do well. So I'm like, yeah, we'll take that hard work. Because the majority are men, 50 and over. There's no personnel, there's no funding stream. So they tell you to go get grants for this. Well, if you know anything about grants, I can get money for events and awareness, but it doesn't pay for personnel. Even if I have one person full-time in Tuscarawas County, that is their life work, that would make a difference. So that would be one. Recovery support with addiction. We have untapped resources in our community. When people come out of treatment, they're just kind of told, okay, you go to your nightly group, your daily group, and you're good to go. That's not how it works. Your brain is still recovering for a good year, where your frontal lobe is still not really lit up at any point. And when we see people relapse and we wonder why, well, it's because their brain is not healed yet. But if we can put resources into helping people get into recovery, most people that get into recovery really come to a place where not only, a lot of times it's a faith, and I would say in our community it's a faith in Jesus, but they also learn the importance of giving back. So if we could invest in people, and we have a really robust recovery community, but they do need investment because sometimes it's generational, And we need to build life skills, so we know how to work, and we know how to parent, and we know how to do things that, you know, a lot of us might take for granted. But if you've had years of addiction, there has been some damage done to your brain. So investing, I think that would help in our workforce as well. So, and that mental health, when you're talking, it really is, whether it's working with Kent State, Tuscarawas, which has been wonderful. They started a social work program this past year. But creating opportunities that we can increase our capacity to work on some of those issues. And it goes into our schools on our mental health. Like, you know, we teach a lot of this social emotional stuff. I think we really need to be focusing on basic life skills, whether that's job reentry, it's getting you ready for life. And I'm just going to say, I do have one really good young staff that I'm working with, but I find it frustrating to work sometimes with people fresh out of school or college, just even having the life skills of how do we interact with our employers and our coworkers and what's appropriate in the workplace. So, you know, I do feel like there's opportunities to really increase the resiliency of our young people, to build in skills that would, again, build back into our community. I think a lot of the issues we have is the breakdown of the family, and that's where I kind of jumped in on this Save Adolescents from Experimentation, because that agenda that's coming at our kids, we all see it. It's on every TV show, it's on every movie, you know, we're promoting just crazily lifestyles. But at the end of the day, the bedrock of our communities is our families. We need men to be dads and good role models. We need women, we need the design that God created really to create healthy communities. So those will be things that I know you don't probably hear from traditional persons running for office, but I will tell you I am very passionate about those issues. And yet I will tell you things I don't learn about, I will, and I will reach out to businessmen or whoever I need to learn. And, you know, my heart's desire is nothing else other than to represent us well. So it's kind of who I am and where I'm at. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No.
Back to the mental health issue.
Yeah.
I'm a retired nurse, MRDD,
Okay.
and I think years and years ago they started taking our individuals, whomever they be,
Yeah.
out of state institutions and putting them into group homes, wherever they may be, all over the place, believe me, you. And they never do a follow-up with mental health, period.
Yeah.
It's like, get out of the state institution, guess what? Now you're in a mental health group home.
And you know very
which
well.
gives you absolutely no supports.
Yeah.
And that's where it lies.
Yeah.
End of story. And I think, I truly believe that in the last 20 years, I don't think they should have gotten rid of state mental institutions, because I do think that
They're needed for some people.
yes, absolutely. And you can't find one anywhere.
Right.
We used to take our individuals from, you know, let's say Maslin, we'd have to van them all the way up to Ashtabula just to get them into a mental health facility, a
Yeah.
state institution,
Yeah.
per se. And getting the hell beat out of us the whole way up.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things, and everyone, they're like forgotten souls,
Right.
the forgotten souls. Oh, you're in a group home now. Well, now guess what? You're a forgotten soul, period. You get your funding from your Medicaid, your Medicare, this and that, for your health issues.
Right.
There are absolutely no mental health supports in those facilities. And I can speak to that from
Yeah.
experience. Absolutely none. So,
And that's, yeah, I
and
agree,
then-
that's not okay.
And then we have people that actually need to be in a state institution
Absolutely.
that are walking among us every day. Every day. And we see absolutely nothing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
No funding, no help, no supports from anyone in our state government, local government, federal government, nothing. Clap out, it's like you're in Vegas.
No, I agree with you. We both know there are some people that just do need that institutional support for themselves, for
I mean,
the safety of
yeah,
everybody.
and there are no state institutions anymore, anywhere,
Yeah,
anywhere. They're walking among us on the street, and those are some of your homeless individuals. And then it just goes on and on and on
Yeah.
and on.
So,
So what do you do about that?
and I'm not sure yet, but, you know,
Thank you
but-
for that answer.
yeah, no, I'm not.
No, I appreciate that answer, at least you don't know any more than I do. with
But
when
I
it
will
comes to
tell
that.
you the one thing, is you're bringing that to me, that I would love to see if I'm in office. I want people to raise those questions about, you know,
Yeah.
these issues. But I'm gonna say even a step further, we do need to have more of a voice. This is our government. It is run by the people. And when I told you probably 7, 8 years ago, I got a little more legislatively involved. We need to testify in Columbus. We need to be writing representatives and senators. We have to weigh in. I remember earlier on when I was kind of getting involved, one time I said to Senator Cottinger, great man, he really cared about the community. But I remember asking him, what does it take to move you? Like, and I think he said like 11, 12, you know, correspondence. And I'm thinking, so people aren't weighing in. And I'll tell you, I am a woman of faith. For years, we bring the churches together on issues and kind of saying to people of faith, like, look, we vote the right way, but we have to have a voice. And I remember one time earlier in DeWine's career, it was great. It was years ago when they were doing the drag queen in the libraries, okay? So they were doing drag queen in the libraries, but they were also wanting to take Father's Day out of the library. He was willing to take that fight, but he was saying, I need to hear from the people. Like, he's not going to put his head on a chopping block unless there's not a demand to take action. So I think that's where I would love to come back to the community and say, this is the legislation that's sitting in committees. Like, I need y'all to come to the State House, to write letters, because it definitely would make it much easier to do the work that we need to do when our people are saying these are priority issues for us. So on that one with mental health, get it on the radar, and you know, then it's easier to bring this to say, hey, this is an underserved population, and you know, it's concerning, and it's something that we need to address. So there's a lot that I don't have answers for. I wasn't planning on running for office, so I don't know the legislation that lies there. But I do know the role of a representative is to represent the people.
Very well, thank you.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Is it impossible to privatize state, wouldn't be state institutions, but privatize them?
I don't know if it would be a public-private partnership. I would think it would,
Because I think some of the problems, because they were state.
yeah.
And
And like with insurance and stuff like that, we certainly do better in the free market, for
my
sure.
sister-in-law worked at Mass
Okay.
and different clubs I was in, we used to go visit.
Yeah. And I haven't done the work to see is that happening in other states or not. I mean, it's certainly, we know the free market works well. We know privatizing certainly probably cuts through a lot of bureaucracy and roles that kind of hinder the work that we do.
Well, there's another problem too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good down.
And I have another.
Sure.
Am I the only one who, I mean, I must be under a rock sometimes. Like the deal with Mr. Hillier
Yeah,
and Householder.
yeah.
I will be honest, I hate all the literature that I get in the mail.
I-
Most of the time, it's this, no, I like this.
Yeah.
It all goes. That's the first I ever had known, was when I got a mailer.
Yeah.
That he had written a letter of support for Mr. Householder.
He also testified.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
why isn't this stuff more,
Readily available.
yes.
Because our media don't want you to know.
Well, yeah, you're right there. We can't talk about media.
That's exactly why.
That is, you're correct. You're correct.
So I'll get on householder after a second, but I have been saying this and I just realized I hadn't. Every door I knock on right now, I tell people that ugly stuff is not from me. Not who I am. Now, I will tell you, on all those nasty mailers against my opponent, there is truth on all of it. If you saw, there was one that came out from me that said just the facts. Every single thing on there was cited. So you can very easily see the householder, you can see the Stevens, you can see the votes. I am as disgusted as y'all are on those mailers. Not okay. To be honest, I think it's hurtful for my campaign because sometimes people think it's coming from me. The integrity on this primary is, I didn't know what I was stepping into. It's just not okay. There's cable ads. They just started radio ads on me that say I'm woke and I'm liberal. And I was just saying, I was trying to look up in here, what does climate tyranny mean? Because apparently I'm supportive of that as well. And the funny one is, if you listen to the ads, Jody Salvo's a pawn from Washington, D.C. Dark money's coming here. I can tell you, we got no dark money. This is such a grassroots campaign. But everything that he kind of did has been placed on my shoulders by his campaign. So there is definitely householder First Energy money that has gone to Representative Hillier in the past. And I am confident you're right that that's not something that they wanted everyone to know. And House Bill 6 is not over. I would say we're going to see a lot more activity as they continue to uncover. I mean, definitely the largest scandal we've seen in Ohio. Like, householder was a $61 million racketeering charge. And for our representative to write a letter to the judge asking for leniency, so not okay. He deserved to go to prison. He did exactly, that was illegal activity off the backs of Ohioans. Not okay. So, I don't have an answer also for media. I think it's difficult now with our newspapers being not local. I know even people from Columbus, because a lot of Republicans are not happy with the Blue 22. And they, at first, were like, let's just talk about Blue 22. And I said, people in our district, that's a new term, And part of it is we just don't have a lot of media here to really kind of dig into that. So I think it is finding alternative sites of who's really speaking about what's going on.
Anybody here that thinks Fox News is telling you the truth, they're 100% liars. Well, but Fox has tricked the whole country for decades, 2 decades probably, into thinking that at least they're on the right. Yeah,
Well, they
they're
started
not.
out half decent.
They did,
and they got blown
and they
off
throw
the Swift.
throw a few good ones in there.
Yeah.
But they've told us this much of what really went on. And we find
It
out
is. It's hard to figure out what's true and not what's true.
They got everybody's trust in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Why do you think Tucker's not on there? He was getting ready to show what really happened January 6th.
But he's on, you can find him.
Oh, I know. I still listen.
Independent.
I found him by the places.
Independent media
Yeah.
is the way to go.
Yep.
You cannot depend on that boob tube. Matter of fact, the best thing you can do is take a
Oh, yeah.
tube to it.
Oh, it is.
Boom.
It is a total crock.
Yes, you have to go to independent media, whether it be
Yeah.
online or it's about the only way.
Yep.
And that's it. You can't depend on that
Yep.
box anymore. And a lot of people do. They're just mindlessly asleep. They turn it on and
Well-
they'll spend hours in front of it.
And a lot of people, though, that's all they have.
Something
That, like my mom, that's all she has is satellite television. So and I tell her, you've got to try to find this somewhere else because it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
Right.
Pure
And
lies.
It's so hard to convince
Yeah.
people. You can take a horse to water, but you can't
Yeah.
make it drink.
Fake news.
So true.
Well,
So true.
and it's high tech stuff.
Right.
It's hard for.
It is hard for a lot of people.
I'm still using a flip phone.
Good for you. I don't even have one.
But what I'm saying is, I'm still using this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting.
But I got it on TV and over it's internet on television, so I can look at stuff.
Right, and that's a good thing. But they're gonna, you know, that's eventually gonna be taken away from all.
Oh, I'm sure.
Then what are people gonna do? We can't get
We can't have that.
anymore, I don't think.
We can't have
And
the
if you
truth
do,
out
you're
there.
paying $100 a month. I pay $100 a month for my landline. Just crap. Which is more expensive than a damn cell phone, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's crap. But they're gonna take that away, so now I'm going to my hammer.
So you think it's a good idea then for some of these things that we have concerns with? Start emailing people, email you, what?
Yeah, I honestly, if I am in that position, I will make it super easy. I don't ever have a problem giving people my phone number. In fact, going through this process, I really do not enjoy the Facebook comments going back and forth. And I do it all the time. You know, just give me a call. Let me give you a call. Yeah.
And I'm an emailer because I want it black and white.
I'm always praying that I get a call from the RNC because I am going to give them all I got.
Yeah.
So
Why I do it and say the things I do anymore.
Yeah.
Because I will not donate to the Republican
No.
Party anymore.
Yeah.
Because the Republican Party isn't there. I'm a conservative.
They're saboteurs.
That's
what they are.
But just like when it came out about the trans thing with Hillary
Yeah.
and stuff, I thought, what is happening in the state?
Yeah.
Because I don't hear enough about the state. I thought they're turning, the Democrats are infiltrating the state of Ohio.
Agreed.
Which is your point, and that's.
So I will let you know, there are 22 of those blue 22 in the House right now. 17 of them are being challenged, and a lot of them are being challenged by people like me that have not been in this for any political gain. It's just we were not okay with the direction they're going. So I would like to think if we can get in office that you will see a change on what's going on right now.
I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah. Why the blue 22 went in, or
When
why?
you said you were a social worker, I thought, oh boy, she's a Republican. Oh boy.
Well, and it's funny
I
because
wanna
that
hear this, you
the
know?
ads that they have against me are that I'm
My
vulnerable and woke
granddaughter,
and
she was going to go into psychology. She didn't. But when she said she was going to go into psychology, I said, oh, I looked at my husband and I said, oh, she's going to be a liberal forever.
well, it's funny. The other thing that kind of got me like just not okay with where we're at. I'm on a couple state boards, but one is I'm a regulator on the Counselor Social Work, Marriage, and Family Therapy Board. So that's appointed by the governor's office. So I need to tell you, I have not practiced my social work license for about 12 years. I've kept it renewed, but I've really been working with my prevention professional certification. So I know I got tapped because it's hard to find a Republican social worker. Like, I know that's the issue. But when I'm on this board, the conversations that we have blow my mind. Like, they don't understand why we would have a problem with House Bill 68, like the SAFE Act. But you have to think, those are on the board that I'm on. It's professor from Akron, from Case Western, from Ohio State. And then there's two of us that aren't professors. But that ideology, they believe, is firmly that we should be doing the transgender care for our kids in the school as much as I think they should not be. So I know, again, my heart is to help people, but it's not for free handouts. In fact, Phil will tell you, we've had people stay in our house over time because they need help. I don't ever give money. You can come, I'll feed you, we'll take care of you, we'll raise your kids, whatever you need. But I don't think money is the solution to our problems. You know, people need work, they need value, they need support, they need people to care about them. So, you know, my view of social work is probably a little bit different.
Do you think when they get down there or they get into the government, that they kind of lose touch with the common person?
I think that can happen, and this is my own thought just going through this process right now. I do believe in term limits, as I walk through this process. And I keep saying, I believe in campaign, we need more campaign finance laws. And I'll tell you on this primary, to limit the amount. Because if you're someone challenging an incumbent, grassroots, you know, I'm asking regular folk, support me in this race. And then you have incumbents that have been working with lobbyists and they have different funding streams. So it puts you at a uneven playing field. But I've also learned already, you know, every single person that wants to endorse you wants you to fit in a box. You know, this is the box that you go into, and then I'll endorse you, and here's your funds. We talk about every issue, and I will not take money if you're going to try to put me in a box, because the world doesn't work like that. You know, not everything is, we know nothing is black and white. So, you know, I think it probably takes a lot of strength to pass up money, to pass up situations, and just to do it for the right reasons. But I could see where people, probably good people, might be influenced over time, and maybe not with any ill intent. But, you know, you make relationships, you trust someone, and you move in a direction. Like, I can see it already on this side. So it's one of those things. I've had the fortunate pleasure of spending a lot of time with Al Landis and Carrie Metzger over time. And I've always noticed, you know, they have small circles around them initially. And I think it is to make sure that they're learning, they're taking in information in a trusted environment, you know, before you go forward. And I've been watching that, and I've been taking notes. So as I go forward, to just be very cautious, to be, you know, wise in the relationships that you make.
If you want to keep your job, sometimes.
Yes.
A politician told my husband one time, he said, why don't you go down there and do what you're telling me now that you want to do? He says, look, if I want to keep my job, I gotta go with the party.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how they can, if they know it's wrong, how they can vote for it.
Yeah.
If they're not.
I will tell you, I've heard quite a few legislators that knew House Bill 6 stunk from day one, and they were the ones that did not bite on that at all. And then there were others, I think, saw money and dollar signs and power and everything else that came with House Bill 6.
Power, that's.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a gentleman that we know of that wasn't able to make it today, but he had a
Okay.
couple questions.
Sure.
You had actually answered one a second ago, but he also wondered, what was your opinion on convention estates?
On
like
what?
the COS convention estates.
So, as we're seeing an agenda come across the United States, I do feel like every state needs to be able to stand firm, because I don't think it's a outlandish thought that our federal government might try to come take our guns or any other ideology. So I do feel the value of the state control. Just like I said, local control is vitally important, state control is vitally important. And we see it, like Ohio does not agree with New York, you know, we do not agree with California. So I think when we get down to constitutional protections, I do feel, you know, states having the ability to protect themselves is important.
He also had said the support for Israel. Like, how do you feel about going about that, or how? Do you feel about
So I have to say, right now, my priority is the border. I am a Christian, so Israel is important to me, but right now, I think we really have to prioritize getting that border closed. So I would say, let's first protect the United States, and then we can kind of move on from there. So, but as a Christian, Israel's important to me. I just feel like we got to get our priorities in place right now.
Which that was just his last question, was the border security. Like, how would you even
Well, that one, I feel Trump is the only one that can make that happen, and that needs to happen. I mean, when you look at drugs, when you look at the cost of inflation, our cost of living, you can't tell me that is not impacted by the millions that are crossing our borders right now. And the simple fact that we have people in our country that are struggling and they're working uninsured, and yet people can come across the border illegally. It's not okay. So I think we need to enforce our immigration laws. Well, we need to close the border first, and then we need to enforce them.
And does that include like the businesses that have to know they're hiring illegals?
You know what? There,
I can't hire
Case
them.
Farm doesn't have any trouble.
They
There
say
should
they're
be-
bringing them in here to do the field work and low wage. They don't want low wage. They
Right.
want the same kind of jobs your son wants
Yeah.
or your son wants. They want the $25 an hour job.
Yeah.
I've been short 2 guys for 3 years. Teresa's she can't hire anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't assimilate. They don't.
Yeah.
Because they have their own churches, their own restaurants, their own clothing stores, they even have a job placement.
But like Case Farms, they just added on not too long ago. Jay knows this because he operates the place. They were putting on another 300 jobs. You know where they're coming from. God knows, my family didn't come, they weren't born and bred here. They came on the boat, but it was way different. I don't care what anybody says, I'll argue that point with anybody. It is different now.
Yeah.
Can't some of these businesses be held
They
responsible
should
for
be.
hiring
They should be.
illegals
Yeah.
and allowing them to continue to be hired?
Yeah. You should only be in here and working in here if you're in here legally. And that means enforcing our immigration laws.
They used to have to come through Ellis Island,
Sure.
where they had to come
Now we
in.
just come through the
The
border.
border.
But, if you have a trade, a business where you could put somebody else to work, they took you up front,
Yeah.
let you come in.
Jody,
But
I
you have
watched
to
on
use a blacksmith
TV.
or something like that,
Right.
they took you up front, let you come in.
I watched on TV a young immigrant,
Okay.
had his hair dyed blonde and tattoos all over his body, holding a cute little baby. He said, I don't want to work.
No, I see.
Did you see that? Here's my money
Yeah.
with this baby.
Yeah.
The state's giving him the money.
But you know what?
I get $1,500 a month, he said.
No, the state's not gonna, I mean, we are.
The treasonous criminal in the White House right now is the one reason for that.
But the
And he is
state's giving
treasonous.
him the money.
But
Our state.
they wouldn't be without that whole party and half of our party running wild.
That I couldn't stand.
We've
to
got-
watch
we-
that.
Well, I
And they
am confident
They live in
Trump
they live,
will get.
3 and 4 families in the house now.
Yeah.
Does the county allow that? Sure. Their county's allowing that.
Yeah.
They know that
They're
there's
illegal, you can do it.
14, 15
Yeah.
people living in a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah.
You know.
Again, all those things I'm gonna have to figure out, but I will.
Right.
Lots of
Yeah.
Yeah.
You asked for a list, didn't you?
And you know what, I appreciate it, and I would just say be patient with me, because again, when someone was not having this on their radar, but again, I get back to, I was raised on a farm, I have a crazy work ethic, and I'm very committed to doing the right thing, so, you know, it'll take me a little bit to get on my feet, but, you know, these are all real issues that impact our lives and impact our communities.
Here's another one for you, Jody.
Sure.
And it kind of rides on the back of immigration, et cetera, what's
Yeah.
going on in Texas. Texas has their own well, it's not National Guard, they have their own Texas Guard.
Okay.
And that's an issue, I don't know, I'm not sure how that happened. I think their setup of the state is a little bit different than the rest of
It
us.
is, we used to live in Texas.
Anyway, can Ohio needs that. The National Guard all over the country has been taken and being taken out of the country to defend other people's borders. We won't say whose, and then to hell with America, which brings me to my point, an interest in Ohio Guard.
Yeah.
The National Militia, which is under Constitution of each state and area, county should have one. Sheriffs, I believe, should be working with the people of the county. And then, which leads me to trafficking, human trafficking. And Ohio is one of the top 3 to 5 states in the country for trafficking. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there's over 800,000 kids and a little bit of women a year that disappear from this country from trafficking. And Ohio, like I said, big, 5 interstates going through this puppy, is a major magnet for trafficking. And that needs to be dealt
Human
with.
trafficking and drugs, it is because of the position
Right.
of Ohio. It is our road system.
Right, and-
So it is not because we're not diligently trying to prevent these issues. It's just how we're positioned in the
Right.
state.
And I think people need to be more well aware. They need
Yeah.
to be given the information to become aware of all this, because I don't think that everybody knows this.
Well, I appreciate you saying this. I love the all. This is a small town, and this is a nice turnout. One of the things I've noticed since the pandemic is people tend not to want to come to be informed on any issue.
Mhm.
And I know, like, I think we came through the pandemic and we've learned, like, we were probably living these crazy lives. But it is important that we come, that we learn, that we become educated on issues like trafficking and addiction, because the only way we're going to make changes is if we're knowledgeable about what's going on. So I do feel, you know, when you see Tusk Against Trafficking holding an educational workshop, it is so important, because there's things that will blow your mind about what do we need to know to protect our kids and our grandkids. Like, it is such a sophisticated, I don't even know what word to
Yeah.
use, network, that we need to learn those things. We need to have conversations about what drugs are in our community and how do we educate our young people about those. So I would say you all have done this well, but we need to really encourage citizens to become more involved, more informed, because it's the only way we're going to really address some of these issues
Right.
as well. You know?
And then,
Yeah.
Question about, do you know, in Ohio, how many schools teach CRT or
All of them.
DEI?
I do not know.
probably all of them.
I'm very concerned about those two things.
Yeah.
How can you
Plenty
stop?
well all.
Yeah.
Probably all of them, Winnie.
DEI is
Diversity,
diversity,
Oh,
equity,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
inclusion, and our
Critical
CRT
race
Critical
is
race theory.
race theory.
Right.
So, how
Yeah.
can you stop that?
So-
How can you find out, is it illegal to teach those things yet? Maybe it should be made illegal.
So I will tell you
You know,
that
maybe about it. But you never get it.
the Board of Education, and that is not, I work a lot with Ohio MOS, Mental Health and Addiction Service, probably more with Ohio Department of Health. I have not figured out the ODE system yet. So that is one, and I will tell you, in our county for sure, we have some amazing superintendents. And I've already said to some of those that I know well that I will need to sit down, because I do not know how ODE works and who's making the decisions. Governor DeWine, I think, is over ODE right now, so I'm not sure where it sits on what curriculum is and how it's protected, but you know, this is where it's important that every single voice is heard in Columbus, because the views of our rural communities versus our urban can be really different. So we just need strong people in office to stand up
We
for.
have to protect our children.
We do.
We have to.
Yeah, we need a lot of parental choice and control, and we need the ability to make sure
And
that,
let them be children.
yeah. So, yeah, another thing I'm gonna have to figure out.
You've got your hands full.
How do, like, can from a state level, can people actually handle the trafficking situation, or does it have to be higher up? Or, like, how does that even
The
work?
Attorney General's office in the state of Ohio is like the chief for law enforcement, and they've always kind of handled the work of human trafficking. But in our local communities, I mean, we have Tuska Against Trafficking is our coalition,
Mhm.
and members can come and you can be informed, and there's plenty of ways for citizens to get involved. Even it's from placing signage in bathrooms,
Yeah.
to even being educated to know what to look for. Actually, a good friend of ours, actually with Senator Landis, they were in Columbus, and they were smart enough to call either the front lobby or law enforcement, and sure enough, the girls were being trafficked, and they were able to get back. But even taking part to just being educated, I think, is super helpful. What are
Yeah.
we looking for? What do we need to know?
Because I did a lot of like research, and I did some like actual lives like we're doing here, where I like tried to inform people, but sometimes I feel like that's not even enough, because it's happening like it first started in one area and then it led to here, and then it gets overwhelming because it's like, how else do you help than just like
Right.
I don't know. So I was like thinking about that, and I was just like, how do you even fix a problem that big whenever it seems like no matter how hard you try, it's still going to be there?
So I would say, at least locally, Tuska Against Trafficking is where you would start, and then kind of digging in of what are the resources in Ohio, and what do we need to know? Because I know there's trainings and opportunities,
Yeah.
but just be something to dig into.
On the note of what Winnie brought up with the CRT in the schools, I just caught wind here the other day. A friend of mine allegedly works in a local library here.
Okay.
And this is another concern. I mean, I've got a couple grandbabies, that's
Yeah.
it. I'm not a big deal. Concern for kids in schools. And I know this is a school issue, but I want to bring it to your attention
Sure.
because it's just, it's taking over, and it's everywhere. And apparently she worked for a local library here,
Okay.
and they hadn't been a while yet, but then they imported these the sex and the smut books for these children.
Yeah.
And she refused to work at the library that's going to house these books. And she actually quit her job. Now, it's yet to be confirmed,
Yeah.
but that's the local library. And then these local schools have these same books where these kids can check these books out and take them home.
You don't want to know. Yeah.
They're teaching
They better not
kids
be.
on transgenderism, homosexuality.
Oh, yeah.
Sex is great at 3 years old. This is the stuff that our children are being locally exposed to.
I know the library.
And I need to go to the school board meeting, but you have to address them apparently and ask permission to talk, and you have to give them the information of what you're going to be talking about. So then they might be able to give you permission to go in and talk. And it's happening here locally now. As of last year to the year before, it wasn't going on, but it is going on. And that's another thing that needs to be addressed locally, is this material being pushed on our children.
Yeah, for me, any of this agenda on our kids is not okay.
No.
How do we
Just-
get it out of the libraries?
Yeah,
How do we get
how-
it out of schools?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, if it's in Garraway's libraries, that is complete bullshit and
Well, yeah.
absolutely unacceptable.
Great.
Bullshit is little towns, and if them liberals have snuck that crap in.
And they are. It's not.
Over here,
It's not just Sugar Creek.
over here Dundee,
No.
It's in Strasburg.
is it over here Dundee, you think?
You'd have to check.
Well,
People would have to
think
check.
it'd be another
Well,
one.
you wouldn't think so.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think so
Well, I
either.
don't know, I'd have to look.
I didn't think it'd be in Strasburg.
Right. And this is the stuff that's going on. This is the agenda that this government, this federal government's pushing on people
Yeah, I know.
down your throat. Sorry, it's it. And the more legislators we have aware of it,
Yeah.
the better off we're going to be. But we've got to stand behind them too. You can't just sit home, be busy, and not do anything about it. They need our support also. People can't just sit back and go, oh, well, somebody else take care of it. Can't happen. We
Sadly,
need to
that's what people
mobilize,
do.
get off our duffs, and help.
Jody, are you gonna have more meet and greets?
Sorry,
like
Julie.
this?
So there's only 15 more days.
Yeah.
So I have one. I'm looking at Pam. I have one in Sugar Creek, at the senior center, I think on the 12th.
Mm.
But honestly, I speak anywhere where anyone will have me. Yeah, Strasburg Senior Center. I think I'm just walking through. Dover is not able to create time, but I'll just go table to table. But I'm open, like if people are willing to get together, because it's helpful for me also to know what's important to those that I'm going to represent.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important for y'all to at least know who you're getting, why you're getting me, you know.
What do you think about climate change?
You're funny, Winnie.
That was at the bottom of my list.
She came with a list.
So So I will say, did you?
Ohio really that
Our cows here don't fart.
So I'll just tell you two things. I was raised on a dairy farm, and I have oil and gas on property that I have. Okay?
Oh, that's terrible.
So we need energy independence. And again, I think that's something that Trump will get done for us. But the thought that, you know, we're going to other countries to get energy, the whole climate change, and it's funny, did you watch the commercials about me? Okay, guys, so just so you know, there's cable ads against me that says I'm woke, liberal, I'm for climate tyranny, which I wasn't really sure.
about that.
Oh, okay. And I'm getting dark money from Washington, D.C. Those are the things that you're hearing about me. No one from D.C.'s given me money. There is not a liberal bone in my body. What's the other one they say about me? Yeah, if you can't tell, the LGBTQ issue was the one that, and I want people online to hear me. I do not have any problems with adult decisions. Hear my heart, I'm a social worker, I care about people, I serve people. The LGBTQ agenda on our children is where that was the breaking point for me. The climate tyranny, that is just funny to me. In fact, I'm going to look at my husband because he's going to laugh at this one. I listened to the Today Show for about 20 minutes before I get ready to go during the day. And I'll tell you, I listen to Spectrum and then I do that. It's kind of my balance of hear what's going on, okay? But Al Roker, I like Al Roker, every single day talks about climate change. Whether it's warm, whether it's cold, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing. And I rant pretty much every day. You can ask my staff.
It's weather.
It's weather. You know, we just have not tracked it for hundreds and hundreds of years.
You don't think,
You
you
know?
don't see seashells in the rocks that's out here? How do you suppose those got here? You don't think maybe that this is just a trend in the weather, that it's changing?
So let me be clear. I am not about, what is it? I don't even know what the climate tyranny, I'm not even sure what that term means, to be honest, but yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you asked because that's on the ad against me, and again, I'm like, I might be the least, I know we need to be stewards of our earth. That's not the issue, but to be this radical, like, and I was just telling someone, fly over the United States. We have way more green areas than we have cities. You know, I don't want us to regulate our businesses to the point that they can't work effectively because we're worried about environment. I think we need to be responsible, but we do not need to go
Well,
completely
no matter what
overboard.
we do to clean the air, it's not gonna negate what everybody else is doing to pollute
Yeah,
the air or the water or whatever. So we're not the Band-Aid for the world.
Well, they create new things, and the new thing is worse than what the old thing was.
Yeah.
And it costs more money. It's worse to get rid of it, you know,
Yeah.
like the light bulb. They had
or
to
the
change
lithium
light bulb
batteries
now.
for our cars, you know.
The light bulbs we have now are unsafe to throw away. And they cost more money.
Yeah.
Why can't we just keep the light bulb we had in the beginning? I mean, stupid. The government
Yeah.
is stupid.
Yeah. So thank you for asking that one.
Well,
I appreciate
threw
that.
in. We've talked about everything else.
Change things a little bit.
Well, good luck. You got your hands full.
How far is Stark County to go, or don't you know?
So I think it's Navarre, Wilmot,
Okay, it'd be the
Sparta.
Fairless School District.
What's that?
Fairless School District.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, yeah, don't forget them in your, when you're working with.
So
schools
I will
down
let
here.
you know, I was late to jump into this race. And there was a couple reasons, so I just want you to know. I worked diligently on issue 1 in August, talking about the Constitution. I was probably one of the few that really stuck on the constitutional threshold. And I think we really messed up as a Republican Party because we were talking about abortion and we should have been talking about the Constitution.
Mhm.
What happened is then it got very confusing and divisive and polarized.
Yeah, they made that an abortion issue, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was about
Right.
the Constitution, which still, I get sick that we still have this really low threshold. So then when November came, I was working on issue 1 and issue 2. And not only in Tuscarawas County, I was speaking across Ohio. The marijuana issue is one that I have been very focused on since probably 2015 to ensure that we do not have youth access to marijuana. So I was working on issue 1 and issue 2. And then I was going to take 2 weeks off, kind of clear my work schedule, and then the Tusky Valley bus accident happened. That is in my community. There was work that we had to do on that particular issue. So I did not get into the race until mid-December. So it was not a lot of time to get in. So I've been spending my campaign time in Tuscarawas County because people that I've been working with says, pull the votes with the people that know you. So that's where I've been. I did not get to Southern Stark until
Yeah, well,
Friday.
that's understandable. I'm
But
just
I
saying,
want
as
people
you're-
to know,
When you work with the school districts,
Yeah.
don't forget that.
I won't.
Yeah.
And the person I am is I will always be very committed to what my job is. If my job is all of Tusk and Southern Stark, I will absolutely get to know my district.
We were
And
busy the last couple of days trying to, looking it up to see what district we even lived in.
oh, yeah, it changes from time to time.
It's confusing. They keep changing it.
You were talking about euthanized marijuana and
Yeah.
all of that. How do you go about when there is local establishments serving to minors? Like, because I have
What, like
heard
marijuana? There are no establishments.
Yes,
there are.
For marijuana?
Yep,
The Gumby
they've
Where?
already been selling them.
in New
They
Philly.
can't. They cannot.
Then they've been illegally selling it right openly in New Philadelphia.
So
That's a whole
if
different
it's
story.
not
You're
in the
saying
dis-
legally.
if it's not in the dispensary at High Street, it is illegal unless they're providing Delta 8 and Delta 10 products, which are derived from hemp. So those are legal because of the 2018 Farm Bill. So it was an unintended consequence when the 2018 bill was going, it legalized hemp, but then they synthesized the hemp product, chemically modifying it, which allowed people to get high. I've been working with our Farm Bureau here in Ohio to close that loophole. And in Ohio, they just passed the policy here to stop the psychoactive manufacturing of hemp because it's legal for our kids. So where I stand on the marijuana issue or any kind of substances is we need to protect our kids. So whether that's vaping, and you know what, I'm going to just say this one on here because I get hit on this one as well. I am very pro-business, but I will be for flavor bans on vapes because flavors, they're targeted to our kids. They're not targeted to adults. So if our young people start vaping at 13, that same device, you could put cannabis oil in it. That cannabis oil is way higher than plant material. So, like, God-grown marijuana, 1 to 2% THC. Okay? Vapes, 35% THC. So the issue is, if the kids are using the vape device because of 13 and the flavoring's good, cannabis at 14 or 15, which is high potency that we do not have research on. We do not know that addiction rate. We absolutely can expect to fill the funnel with addiction again. So where I'm at, I will kick and scream to keep substances away from our young people, because, you know, with addiction, if you can delay the onset till your brain is developed, in fact, if you can delay it till 21, your chance of struggling with addiction is low. So we need to be very committed to making sure our kids do not have access to substances. So
Yeah.
working with law enforcement, educating parents, like those will all be things that I'm going to be passionate about, because again, healthy communities require healthy children. So we need to protect their brains, we need to protect their sexuality, all that stuff. We need to, as responsible adults, take care of our kids.
Yeah,
Well,
because
I was told that, as far as marijuana, somebody told me you're allowed 6 plants per person
Yeah,
to raise them.
correct.
That's a lot of plants.
Yeah, they get big.
Oh.
You know the size of them, I can tell. I'll get, let me go ahead.
I can just testify from my own family. If the kids get into smoking marijuana, my sister started smoking marijuana when she was 14. She's gone through the whole spectrum. She left the family at 17. She's been an addict her whole life. She moved on from marijuana to crack. She called me a year ago, and, well, it wasn't, yeah, I guess it was a year ago, January last year, and said, I want my life back. I want help. And I said, come stay with us. Yeah, we'll help you. 3 months. And she's right back where she was. We tried everything under the sun. We included her in every family event, in everything we did. Paid her bills for her, bought her cigarettes, you know, bought her food, bought her medicine. And in 3 months, she tells me, I'm not happy here. I have to go back to my life. And she packed up and moved right back to where she was. She's never gonna recover from this. And
They
it all
say it's
started.
not a stepping stone.
Yeah.
They
It
tell
is
you
a
it's
stepping
not
stone.
going to do
It
that.
absolutely is. It started when she was 14 and she started smoking.
Yeah, it's stronger and stronger. So,
Yeah.
Why do you think they want this legal so bad? They want
oh,
this,
it's in follow the money.
if
Follow the money.
it's money, and the other thing is, everybody that hasn't been brainwashed to be a liberal can be kicked back and relax. Oh yeah, whatever, let it happen. It's fine. Don't need to vote. If we're all high as a kite, they know we're not going to fight them. Okay, and they know we've got weapons, but who's going to care if we're all high?
So I think with the cannabis industry, follow the money. It is no different than big tobacco. So you had big tobacco. They only made money if people were addicted to their substance. We spent decades educating about tobacco, so everyone knows the negative effects. If you follow the cannabis industry, it's the same players that were in big tobacco. It's those that were in Altria, which were over Marlboro, and then even big pharma. You have people in big pharma that are also now in the cannabis industry. So just follow the money.
They're
I
going to
mean,
make a killing.
That's what I say, they get rid of one thing and they introduce something else, and worse than they say that was. They got rid of cigarettes, and then they realized the state of Ohio's losing all this money.
Oh, yeah.
So let's back cannabis.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
cannabis is
okay.
even more.
I got it. Just pipe it here a little bit. I'm sorry. Let's talk about choice. Let's talk about adults doing choice. I agree with you. The tobacco and the targeting the children, I agree with you. I have been a marijuana smoker, user my entire life. I am not a drug addict. I am not a wacko. I ride a motorcycle. I have fun. I am very Republican sided. I don't believe in all the other stuff that we were talking about. There is a choice. My own nephew died just a couple years ago from fentanyl. Okay? Now, this kid, it wasn't that he was a marijuana smoker. Oh no. He was straight into hardcore stuff, and the kid was only 18. We didn't even know it. He was coming to my home, and he would go into the bathroom, which was connected to my bedroom. Didn't even know it. And he was going in and taking pain pills, stealing them. Didn't even figure it out. Dawned on me, why is this kid going into John every time he comes here? Went in, caught him red-handed. It wasn't, but I don't know. I mean, I laid into him hard. And it wasn't but a week later that fentanyl, 5 pounds, 5. I didn't even know there were 5 different kinds of fentanyl. 5 different kinds of fentanyl in this kid's body at 18 years old. Strasburg, Ohio. I say to you, marijuana is the least of your fucking worries.
Well,
And I you know, when everyone says, well, it's a building block, okay, I can drag that along for just so long. You know, I think it's a lot about choices.
you can handle it.
Right.
Maybe
Not
somebody
everybody
else.
can handle it.
But I was a kid too.
Right.
I was smoking dope when
I
I was
will-
14, 13.
I know.
I will-
Hell, talk to her over there. She's the one that got me high to begin with.
You know what, though?
Not everybody's
But
gonna
I'm
go
not a
that way.
drug addict. I'm a retired nurse. I worked my entire life. I work, I go to school, I do all these things. I don't believe that y'all are in the
So-
right kind of.
Let me just kind of address this, because this is the area that
Okay,
I work
I
in.
know this is your
Yeah,
area,
this is
and
my
I was
area.
opposed to you back then
Yeah.
too. So
So-
let's go.
Now, honestly, the weed you guys were smoking back
I know
in the
it's
day when you were
different,
kids,
much
completely
lower,
different.
like
Yeah.
THC quantity and all
Completely,
that.
that's a different piece. And you'll
I
hear
agree.
me say, with substances, it really is, there's 2 real things that happen. Age of use
Okay.
and genetics.
Yeah,
So,
Well, I believe
those
genetics
are
have
the
something to
2
do with
trump
it.
things that happen.
Right.
So, you know, if someone is over the age of 21 and really your brain is until 25, your chance of addiction, if you don't have it in your family, is really diminished.
I had it in my family on both sides.
Well, there's not a guarantee. The problem with addiction, it's like playing Russian roulette. You know, if it's in your family genes, you have a higher chance that there's more bullets in the chamber.
Okay, I got
But with our young people, it really is about potency right now. So
you. And I
that's
agree, you know, anymore, you know, one little itty bitty hit would get you as high as a kite. There's no doubt in my mind.
and you'll hear me when I'm speaking for adults. I am for adult choices. Now, you said there's choices, so there's consequences,
Well, there are
and with
choices,
an adult
and that's the
brain, we
thing.
need to
People
be
forget
aware
about
of that.
choices.
But when you'll hear me kind of come in on regulation, it is just to protect our kids. Like, that's where I'm gonna weigh in on those issues.
Agreeable, and I'm, you know, 100% medical.
Yeah,
There's no doubt in my mind. You know, and no kid
yeah,
gets medical. They get CBD for seizure activity,
yeah,
that type of thing. 100% agree with.
yeah. So, yeah, I think it's agreeable. We just need to know where our kids are starting is a different starting point. And to be honest, all our drugs are adulterated in our communities now. So, you know, kids can think they're using one thing, and, you know, at the end of the day, our drugs are coming in from a place that we don't know.
That's why you should grow your own.
Drug
So at least
dealers
you know
do
what you
not
got.
care about the safety of their product. They need a product that people are gonna like, that they're gonna get high and usually more potent, and they don't really care where it's going into our community. So there's not a safe drug in our communities at this point, you know?
You think you can fight off the money?
What's that?
I said, do you think you can fight off the money? I mean, everything runs by money,
It does run by mine.
you know, and that's powerful to some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Hold your reserve. Hold your reserve.
It's gonna be a
Don't
rough
do that.
job, Julie.
Yeah, I know. I say to my husband, I'm gonna, what do I say? I'm gonna work hard, less money, and people are gonna not like me. I'm okay with it. I really, that's where I'm at. At the end of the day, I'm going to say I'm a woman of faith, and I do feel God has. I didn't realize I was being prepared, but when I look back now, just the relationships that I've had, the opportunities to, weigh in legislatively, the really just, I do feel like I'm called.
He will give you the answers.
He will, yeah. And you know what? If I am following where I'm being led to be, and if people have a hard time with me, I'm going to be okay with that. So I'm just in here to do what I feel is the right thing to do. And if you guys give me the vote, that's where I'm going to be. And if not, I'm going to continue
Where
to.
can we send you some
That man over there.
money? You don't take dark money. Oh my God. That's all I have.
So it's friends of Jody Sabo. They'll take care of that. And I will tell you a couple things. We need to vote on March 19th.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I know you guys are informed because you're coming out, but I can't tell you how many doors I'm knocking on where people say, yeah. They'll ask me if I'm a Republican, or I tell them, you got my vote, I just go right down the ticket. And I say, look, there's two of us on this ticket. We're both saying the same thing. You need to do your homework, But we need to be very judicious on our judges, I will tell you, for Congress, we have Reggie Stolfus and we have Mike Rowley. I will tell you, do your homework. I will be walking with Reggie Stolfus's crew on Saturday, going door to door. Conservative Christian man, in for the right reason. So we need to do our homework. We really need, if you don't know who it is, don't check a box. I think that's vitally important. If you want to help on the campaign, we will be doing canvassing. I'm walking every day, but this Saturday we're going to meet down at the headquarters, Republican headquarters, at 10 and just canvass. I think we're going to hit New Philly on Saturday. There's a lot of people in New Philly, so we'd welcome that. We'd welcome yard signs. I am certainly getting attacked about my climate tyranny and everything else. Feel free to defend that. I'm trying to walk through this as well as you can. It's kind of hard to walk through blatant lies, like kind of put on your shoulder. So, I would take, the help of any citizens to say, hey, I met with Jody and clearly this is not who she is. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, was there anything, like any way that if anybody that was watching on the internet or if anybody here wanted to, like they were talking about earlier, reach out to you, is there any way that they would be able to reach out to
Yep.
you?
If you go to my Jody South, my regular Facebook page, just private message me.
Okay.
I normally give my phone number, but I don't know how many people this is going out to.
Yeah.
So normally I'm fine giving my number. So if you just private message me, I'll get back. And if it's someone here that y'all know, Joanne or Teresa can give you my number, I'm fine with that. I do prefer to have conversations and go back and forth on Facebook and text. Anything else? I do appreciate y'all being here, and I would appreciate a vote in March 19th. And I'm committed to learning and doing the right thing. So that's Jody.
God bless you.